All right, hello everyone and welcome to another Tuesday evening. And I hope you guys are all doing well. And another week, another dot, all right, another spark into the basket. So let's do this. We're going to carry on as usual with the topic, the approach to the wisdom of Kabbalah. And this will be the last time we're doing this topic. So we'll be over this one. And next week we'll be moving on to what we call the topic of Arvut. Okay. So before further ado, let's get started. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to carry on with excerpt number 18, and you guys probably have a link. If you have any questions, you can shoot them through during the lesson. Also, if you're new to the website, if you're new to the channel, if you're new to our YouTube channel and you have not been through the Education Center or the Learning Center lessons, the first semester, second semester, third semester, it'll be a good idea to go through those first, because these are all excerpts from bigger articles. And if you don't have that foundation understanding, these are going to be a bit more problematic. All right, so let's get started. This is from Rabash. It is our inability to do anything for the sake of the Creator. Only the light of the Torah will correct the heart, for the heart is called desire, and by nature it is a desire only to receive. But how can a person go against nature? This is why the Creator said, I've created the evil inclination, I've created the Torah as a spice. It follows that he's not learning Torah for the intellect, to understand, but he's learning in order to understand so as to achieve the vikut with the Creator, who is clothed in the Torah. And this pertains to the heart. Through the light, we will receive it, it reforms him. Through the light, let me just read that again. Through the light, he will receive it, it reforms him, meaning that the will to receive for his own sake can receive strength from above that enables it to work for the sake of the Creator. All right, so let's go over this again slowly. It's in our inability to do anything for the sake of the Creator. Now, the Creator is the attribute of love and bestowal towards others, but our nature, human nature, is love of the self, right? So our egoistic nature is what's controlling us. So the Creator loves everything outside of him or herself. Okay, this is how the Kabbalists are describing. We don't feel the Creator yet, right? Okay, but there'll come a time when we will. And this sensation of the Creator means I've changed my attributes. So from egoism, if I step into altruism, then I can feel perception of reality. I can perceive reality completely differently, because egoism is directed completely at receiving for myself, whereas altruism makes no self-calculation and is focused only towards the outside. So the two perceptions of reality are completely different. So when you change from egoism to altruism, you then have the ability to feel the Creator. What does that mean? It means to feel how the Creator exists in reality. That's what it means. So we're not talking about, when we're talking about the Creator, don't portray to yourself some image, or like, we have a dialogue with someone, like, with a person or whatever. Here we have to understand that from a perception of reality, we come to a different sensation of living, and that different sensation of existence allows us to feel what the Creator is like. So it is so when it says it is our inability to do anything for the sake of the Creator, means we are incapacitated to do any act of bestowal towards others without self-calculation. Even if I do something good for others, I always have a calculation for myself. This is why we're completely opposite to the nature of the Creator. Maybe you can say the Creator's nature, right? We're against that. We're just opposite. So only the light of the Torah. Torah means teaching, all right? So it's actually it comes from the two words, right? Light and user manual. So when we say Torah, we're talking about the teaching. So we're talking about the wisdom of Kabbalah. We're not talking about the book Torah. The book Torah is also a Kabbalistic book, but Torah means teaching where you can get the light. So Torah, right, means illumination, lighting, and Hora means a user manual. So if I use the manual, if I use the teaching correctly, I should get enlightened, right? And here, our Torah, here at B'nai Baruch, our Torah is the writings of the Kabbalists, okay, dating back thousands of years. Only the light of the Torah will correct the heart, means that the person has to change the way his heart functions. What does that mean? Obviously, we're not talking about the piece of meat inside our body. For the heart is called a desire. So all my desires are called my heart. And by nature, it is a desire only to receive. So the way we function by laws of nature, default is to receive pleasure, want to receive pleasure for ourselves. We want to be fulfilled all the time. But how can a person go against nature? So how can we get out of this? This is why the Creator said, I've created the evil inclination. I've created the Torah as a spice. So by nature, God, Creator, nature, it doesn't matter what we call it. The way we're created by the Creator is by default bad, right? Because if we're egoists, we're bad, all right? And this is why the state of the world, as you can see, is pretty bad, right? And there's only one reason for that, because we were created as egoists. We were created bad. All right, so there's a reason for it, and there's a good reason for it, which we're studying it. And then what else does it say? I've created the Torah as a spice. So also the learning, the education, or the growing up process of a human being through the teaching is the cure for the person. So if we understand that our human nature, our egoistic nature, is causing us harm, and it's causing us misery rather than happiness, right? We're always striving to be happy, but we're always ending up in a big mess, right? This is why we've got huge depression in the world, a lot of illnesses, heart disease, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, pandemic, all kinds of troubles, natural disasters. Everything is in chaos because of our egoistic nature. Why? Because we're constantly, instead of giving out, or instead of completing creation, what we're doing is we're consuming it. And there's a limit to how much the world can give us. We can't just, cut down all the trees, mine the whole world until the last grain of I don't know what, right? And expect the world to treat us in a good way. And this is why the world's or nature's law is balance. And the only created being in reality, which is in balance, is humanity. So therefore, we're going through a lot of wars, depression, all kinds of, psychological problems, mental problems, environment, war, family problems, kids, work problems, everything. All our problems have one core reason: egoism. Okay, so by studying our nature, we can see where our nature is causing us problems and grief, and then we can fix it. Okay, we can correct that situation. The important thing, though, is that a person has to see that he is bad in the first place. So how is he going to do that? Let's read and find out. So to understand, let's see, it follows that he's not learning Torah for the intellect. So we don't want to just read a book and intellectually philosophize about it. That's not going to get us anywhere. Religions, all kinds of worldly philosophies, from, ancient Greek democracy to, Karl Marx communism, you name it, from democracy to all kinds of things, fascism, communism, all kinds of life kind of governances that we've been through is being based on human philosophy. And this is why it has always been unsuccessful. Humans were created to fail in their current nature. This is why we cannot succeed in anything, despite the fact that we're progressing in technology and all this kind of Gucci-Mucci stuff, like culture and music, art and all that, technology. What's happened really? The amount of misery and sadness in the world has gone up, skyrocketing. This is why drug abuse, depression, all kinds of problems we're going through in life. Why? Because we're completely unaligned from the balance that nature has. So we have to study what's causing us all kinds of sadness and misery. So it's not an intellectual study, it's a study where a person needs to, how should I put it, investigate, right? Investigate one's own nature. And we have to be in that certain environment in order for us to do that. So what does that mean? What is he saying us, telling us here? And this pertains to the heart. So we have to understand where our desires are getting us to. Why our desires are always, when they're out of control, when they're out of balance, when we want to get all kinds of things from life, and we're running after them like mad, what is causing us to actually be miserable? So we have to work on discovering, evaluating, inspecting, like researching what our desires are and why are they causing us problems. Through the light he will receive. So through the study, through this investigation, one becomes enlightened. It's like this, right? For example, think about someone who likes smoking, right? Somebody who likes smoking and drinking, right? Some people really get pleasure from it, and it's fine. So if the doctor comes to you and says, listen, you got to stop this, because if you don't, your lungs are just going to go bankrupt, okay? So despite the fact that you love it, you're willing to stop it. Why? Because you understand it's going to cause you a problem. You understand it's going to cause you damage. So our nature, on the one hand, is very, weak towards all kinds of pleasures, right? I want to get all kinds of pleasures, and we're weak, we can't withstand them. But on the other hand, if we have an understanding of the cause and consequence, then we can say we've got the ability, or we can create an environment where we can get some ability to refrain from doing something. And that is called practical work, right? So this is something we've got to do in practice. So by understanding that my will to receive pleasure for myself, working in this way all the time egoistically, is causing me problems, then I can say to myself, well, wait a minute, I'm now going to put myself, I'm not kind of disconnect myself, I'm going to put myself aside and see what kind of desires I should use, because some of them I have to use to exist, and what I shouldn't use. And this is called enlightenment. So I'm kind of like getting into the layers of my nature. And everybody has to do this on their, on themselves. So, I mean, there's nobody else that can come to you from the outside and say, listen, your desires here and here are here doing this to you. A person has to do this research investigation through the study, him or herself. Okay. And what will happen afterwards? From the study, from the learning, the teaching, he can receive strength, which will enable him to work for the sake of the Creator, meaning that this study will enlighten us and we'll get strength from this enlightenment, and that will allow us to change into a second nature, being the nature of the Creator, which is bestowed. Okay, and this is something humanity will, by the way, have to do. As you can see, we've got a bad war happening between Russia and Ukraine. The way things are looking, this might spread around a little bit, and humanity has to learn and understand that only by completing each other instead of fighting each other, we can actually bring some kind of balance and peaceful life to everybody. And the sooner we understand it, the better, because things will only get worse. As you can see from history, things have never gotten better. All right, every war kills more and more people simply because this is just how it is. It just doesn't get any better. The weapons are more sophisticated, the damage is more, it's just, everything just goes worse all the time. Also, the psychological effects, the impact, which is, let's say, upon our soul, let's say, the burden on the soul is much heavier with every generation. So it has a huge psychological impact on humanity's development. On the one hand, all the problems in the world also give us the ability to grow up a little bit, because through pain and suffering, we can actually question things. Like, why am I living? What's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of life? And so forth. So by questioning these things, I can look around to see what can get me out of this mess. And there's only one way to get out of the mess that we're in right now. And that's the individual coming to balance with the laws of nature, and the whole of humanity will have to, I repeat, humanity will have to come to this balance. The laws of nature have not changed since the inception of reality. And the law of balance will not change, and it will push us, suffocate us, take us through immense trouble and suffering, and still will bring us to balance. Right? Nature does not fail in its laws, and we will have to understand that. There are two ways to understand. One is we can learn and adopt and change, or we'll just get beaten up by nature, as we've been doing for thousands of years, and learn the hard way. But either way, we're going to have to learn it. Let's move on to item number 19 here. First, one must see if he has the strength to come to be able to act with the aim to bestow contentment upon the Creator. Then, when he has already come to realize that he cannot achieve it by himself, that person focuses his Torah and mitzvot on a single point, which is that the light in it reforms. That this will be the only reward that he wants from the Torah and mitzvot. In other words, the reward for his labor will be for the Creator to give him this strength called the power of bestowal. All right, so a person really needs to delve into the study of the wisdom of Kabbalah. And actually, when I say delve into the study, I mean to apply it on himself. And only by going through all these applications, the research and the next step that he or she needs to take, we always need to be on this constant momentum to see where we can improve. Then we need to understand that we're going to come to a realization. And that realization, he says here, that a person cannot change himself. So all the work that one does actually brings one to understand that this is how I am and I cannot do anything about it. But until he comes to this sensation, he has to do the work. He must, or she must, do the work and do the best that one can, so that he can or she can say that I've completely exhausted every avenue and I've come to the conclusion that I cannot change myself. So this is what the study should show us, because you can see also in humanity, right? Humanity has tried to change humans for thousands of years with morals, ethics, religion, laws, all kinds of stuff. It doesn't work. It won't work because you cannot restrain human desire. You can't. And the thing is, the funny thing about it is this: everybody's trying to restrain the human desire. And the wisdom of Kabbalah says, listen, don't go in that direction because you won't succeed. It's just, you can't restrain the human desire. It's just not possible. So what is the wisdom of Kabbalah saying? The wisdom of Kabbalah is saying, listen, if you learn what your nature is like, if you understand who you are, what you are, then if you understand what this balance in nature is, and if you understand how you're supposed to integrate yourself into life in a balanced way, then you can have a peaceful life. You can have a happy life. But by trying to stop all your desires, trying to cut them off from yourself, it's just going to cause you grief, because you won't win that war. It's not the smart thing to do either. Because how can you win a war against what the Creator created? If the Creator created us like this, I mean, it's like, what can we do? We can't do anything against it, but we can learn about it. We can understand it. We can research it. We can decipher what it means to be an egoistic desire to receive. And then we can see the kind of destruction and harm it brings to us. And if I, through egoism, right, egoistically, if I see something that's harmful to me, I can cut it off. I can let it go. Even if it's egoistic. That means I can get rid of all my bad inclinations if I see that it's hurting me, it's damaging me. If I'm using my desire to receive egoistically all the time, and if I see that every time I use my desire, I'm shooting myself in the foot, I would not use it again. The problem is we don't see it in our day-to-day lives. We have a desire, we want to go after something, and we just go for it, run after it, try to get it. Then what? Even if you get it, the desire and the pleasure, they cancel each other out. You're really hungry, you go eat your best food. After a few bites, you're already not getting a taste anymore. You can't, because your taste buds, after a few bites, it's game over. So you're just eating to finish the food. Now, with every desire, it's the same thing. The desire and the fulfillment, they cancel each other out. So you have to chase a new desire right afterwards. This is why right in the middle of your dinner, your favorite food, you're already thinking about the dessert. Why? Because the taste of your favorite food has diminishing returns. That's why. And accordingly, you can never be fulfilled. And then you're eating your dessert. Halfway through your dessert, you're thinking, oh, a nice cup of coffee would be good. Maybe I'll have a cigar as well. Okay. So your mind's already on the next thing. And this is how our nature works. And there's no end to it. There's no end to it. So what we're basically doing is running after stupid, silly things without understanding that it's not going to remain with us. The fulfillment is not going to remain with us. Okay. So this is really easy to, I think, grasp. I think anyone can understand that. And if you get this template, envision it, just put it in front of you for a second. You can make an easy calculation. You can say, well, what is worth running after and what is not worth running after? Even just understanding the simple principle that desire and pleasure cancel each other out, I can now make an informed decision about what's really worth it and what isn't. Okay. Now, what's the benefit of that? This, first of all, brings you focus. You don't go around chasing anything, like a headless chicken. Okay, running around chasing everything. You become focused. You begin to cherry pick what you're going to chase. So this focus will actually bring more stability into your life as well, because you're not, you're not out there like running all over the place. All right. So what else has it got here for us? First, one must see if he has the strength to come to be able to act with the aim to bestow contentment upon the Creator. Okay, so we do the work to see if we can bestow contentment to the Creator. Then, when he has already come to realize he cannot achieve it by himself, meaning that he's done everything he possibly can and come to the conclusion, I can't change myself, that person focuses his Torah, his learning and his direction on a single point, which is that the light in it reforms him. So the person, when one discovers that he cannot change his nature by himself, he must focus on the light that reforms him, meaning why I want to change. What needs to change in me? I want the study to change what? Okay, this is what I need to focus on. What do I want the study to change in me? Right? This needs to be very clear cut, specific, and it can't be clear cut if you haven't done everything you could in your, you could. If I haven't done everything that I could, if I haven't really, depleted all my energy trying to fix myself up and come to the conclusion that I can't change myself, if I haven't done that already, then I cannot focus on this light that reforms. So this is why the study takes a while, until we understand that our human nature is just completely dominating us, controlling us. We're like a dog on a leash, and there's nothing we can do about it. Once you come to that understanding, then you can focus and say, listen, I need this to change in me. That this will be the only reward that he wants from the Torah and the commandments. So once I'm focused, I'm just focused on one thing. I can't have 1,001 desires, guys. All right. So the study should bring me to just one desire, the desire to change my egoistic inclination and to get out of it. Okay. And because the Creator created us, it is He who can make that switch. Okay. So the focus must be on what I want, because at the end of the day, remember, we're a desire to receive. Okay. This is not going to change. We're always a desire to receive. What will change is what I want and why I want it. So if I see my egoism is causing me harm, I can then decide not to be an egoist, and I can focus on just wanting not to be an egoist or wanting to be in altruism. Same kind of thing. And this allows a person actually to maintain his place in nature under a balanced circumstance. And this is what we all need to attain. So finding balance isn't in all this kind of, I don't know, all this kind of spiritual methods out there, thousands of them, okay? Balance can only be if I decipher my nature and how I'm going to be on top of that nature instead of being under it. Because in modern society, if you want to balance yourself out, you can't go up onto a mountaintop and live there. Right? It's just not going to happen. We're social creatures. So within the society, within our 21st century life, while still working, while we still have family, kids, and all this kind of worldly life that we have, within it, how can we come to balance? And that can only be through the understanding of our nature. And then through the understanding, we make an informed decision, because now we've got knowledge in our hands, to refrain from egoism. Okay? That is the only way. And there is no other way. In other words, the reward for his labor, the reward for the study that I'm doing, the work I'm doing, will be for the Creator, which is to reciprocate his action of bestowal on me. Now, when something is in the Kabbalistic text, they're always saying, you got to do this for the Creator, you got to do that for the Creator. Doing something for the Creator means that I'm reciprocating our relationship in such a way that I'm treating him like he treats me. Now, in order for me to understand how to treat the Creator, okay, because if we look at our lives, we might say to ourselves quite correctly that, well, listen, God isn't treating me very nicely at all. I have a pretty bad life, okay? So a lot of humans, or a lot of people in the world, would argue that the Creator is good, but they would never argue that their inclination or their nature was bad. Okay, because everybody says, oh, I have a bad life and the Creator is bad. Okay, we're just like little kids, right? So dad doesn't give us chocolate, we say he's a bad dad. So same kind of thing here. So what we want to do in reality is change our nature in such a way from egoism to altruism so that we can come to exist in the same kind of perception that the Creator is existing in. That is to give, to work for the Creator. Okay, that's what it means to work for the Creator, to exist like he is, and to have this new nature functioning like the Creator's nature is functioning. Now, why do we feel bad in life? Simple reason, because we're out of balance. Creator and nature are the same thing. Okay, call it God, call it nature, call it Creator, call it Allah, it doesn't matter. Whatever you call it, there's a force. The Kabbalists call it nature. And the nature has a way of existing. It has its own system of existing. And in nature, everything is in the cycle of existence. And in nature, nothing goes to waste, and everything is part of the system and it's in balance. Now, we humans, because we're out of balance, we are suffering. We're not suffering because God's bad. We're suffering because we don't understand what it means to be in balance with nature. Now, you could argue that, well, the Creator created us bad in the first place. So, he made us bad. We didn't ask for it. That's true. But humans are special. Humans are special in the way that they must attain a level higher than an animal. The way we live right now, we're born, we live, we die. A cat is born, it lives, it dies. Not much difference, is there? At the end of the day, we've got a lifespan, a shelf life, and everybody ends up dead. Why? Because we're relating our existence to the body. And the body has a shelf life. Okay? But if we could see that the way we perceive reality from within the body also has an alternative, where we can perceive reality by changing our approach to reality or by changing our point of view to reality, if we could feel that there is a different way to perceive and exist in reality in a different kind of a form, then we could do some kind of a comparison. Okay. Now, we don't have this comparison. So the initial state is for a person to start to work so that he can build this new perception, because we feel life through our 5 sensory organs in us. We're not feeling what's outside of us. We're feeling the impact of what is outside in us. So there's a cause on the outside, which is my life, a consequence in the inside, and that's what I'm feeling. So the whole of reality is actually what I'm feeling reflected to me. Now, if I could feel reality in a different way, rather than being egoistic, if I could feel it in an altruistic way, kind of switch things around, then I would never even feel that I'm existing in this corporeal body. Why? Because it's a different perception. All right. So think of the body as one way of perceiving reality and feeling it and then dying. And think of another way to perceive reality, okay, in a different kind of body. Let's call it another body as well, in a different kind of body. But this body has the ability to exist forever like nature. Why? Because it's come to balance with nature. It is existing like nature. So it's constantly ongoing, and it doesn't feel like it's dying. Okay. So this new perception of reality is called spirituality in the wisdom of Kabbalah. It's also called attaining a soul. Now, a lot of people think their soul is in them. All right. But we don't feel like we've got a soul. We feel like me, me and myself. It's like my body. I don't feel like I've got a soul. I don't even miss the state of being soulless. Nobody's saying, oh, I don't have a soul either. Nobody misses that state because we don't feel it. Just like we don't feel like we lack a finger, right? If I got 5 fingers, I don't think, oh, I need a 6th one. Okay. Or I don't say, oh, I got 2 arms, but I want to be like an octopus. Okay, because here, we feel like this is how it should be, right? So we don't lack a soul. And the only way to step out of this thing is, this is your body, your corporeal body. This is how you perceive, live, and feel reality. And then the soul is something you got to build, you got to make, so that you can perceive reality from that perspective. And then you got 2 visions, one from your egoistic desire to receive for yourself. And then once you build the altruistic one, you've got also an altruistic sensation. Now, from these, now you can have free choice. Now you can have a different perspective, and you can build this on the foundation of corporeality. So soul is not something that religions tell us that we're going to get at the end of the day when we die. If I don't have a soul now, what makes you think I'm going to have one when I'm dead? And if I had one, why don't I feel it? And even if I have a soul and I don't feel it, does that mean I have a soul? Right? Because if I don't feel like I've got one, can I even say I've got one? Right? So these kind of stuff is just human confusion. And for thousands of years, we've been confused by people who have no understanding about perception of reality and how we can change that perception of reality by changing our very nature. And there is no other way. Because if I keep looking at reality through the same nature that I'm in, nothing will change in my life. Nothing can change. How can it change? Impossible. So I've got to renew the glasses. I've got to put a new set of glasses that shows me reality completely differently. And that can only happen if I get out of my nature and step into a new one. And this is what we call studying the wisdom of Kabbalah. This is called Torah and mitzvot for us, right? So it's not the religious person's Torah and mitzvot out there on the religious world. Torah is the teaching, a teaching where a person must apply in order to get changed, right? A person in spirituality is talking about self-transformation into something beyond his corporeal perception. Because if I'm looking for some kind of personal change still in my body, in my corporeal existence, nothing's going to really change. Now, how can it? Okay, we're still going to just go through life and end up dead. Nothing can change. If we want our sensations to change and to be clothed in a different perception, then surely I have to change my nature. Get out of this and step into a new perception of reality. And this is where all our work is focused on. So the initial thing, as we've read here, although the excerpts are quite short, we have to kind of like delve into them deeper, all right? Kabbalistic texts were always written like all blurry, a little blurry, and kind of like covered up. Nothing is like straightforward. So there was always a Kabbalist who taught the student what's behind everything. So we have to delve into what's behind the excerpts and get into it deeper in order to understand how, in order to understand what they're trying to really tell us, because they're talking about the creator. It's like some kind of religion, right? They're talking about God, God's commandments and all this kind of stuff. But if we don't understand what these really mean and what we have to do with them, then it'll end up being like a religion. And this is how religions were born, actually, from Kabbalistic texts that were written thousands of years ago before religions even existed. Now then, so it's 8. Do we have any questions? Nothing. Okay, no dramas there. So let's move forward and let's read item number 20. Before one is rewarded with emerging from self-love and doing everything in order to bestow, although he learns all these matters as they are, there are only names without any clarification, meaning that he has no attainment in those things that he is learning, since he has no knowledge about the material of the upper roots called the holy names, or Sephirot, and parts of him. We can learn the upper matters called the wisdom of Kabbalah only by way of remedy, since they can bring a person desire and yearning to adhere to the Creator because of holiness, of the matters that speak of the holy names. Right here. So once again, as you can see, it's quite blurry, right? Holy names, all this kind of stuff. Like the whole thing is some kind of remedy, and Sephirot, parts of him. So these are all quite complicated, or let's say unusual terms for a person who wants to change his nature and, achieve a higher level of consciousness. However, though, all these texts come from many years ago, and these are all like covered up. So we have to decipher them as we go along. So let's go step by step and delve into this one and call it a night. Before one is rewarded with emerging from self-love and doing everything in order to bestow. So until I step out of my egoistic nature and get into bestowal, right? So from self-love to the love of others, until I make this switch, although he learns all these matters as they are, they're only names without any clarification. So until I make this switch, I'm studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, but it's all kind of like theory. Okay, it's like up in the air somewhere. It's not clear cut. Because how can it be clear cut if I don't really perceive it? So what is he saying? There are only names without any clarification, meaning that he has no attainment in those things that he is learning. So the things we're learning in Kabbalah sometimes seem very like abstract. It's like, we don't really understand what's going on with all this stuff. Why? Because we have no sensation of some of the things they're talking about. Since he has no knowledge about the material of the upper roots. Upper roots means spirituality, and spirituality means the causes of everything. What causes things to happen to me, to the whole of humanity, to the whole of reality? If I don't understand the upper root, that higher level, then I cannot sort out my life. Understand this very clearly. If I don't attain spirituality, there is no way I can solve my humanly problems. Not possible. We have not been able to do it, and we will not be able to solve our humanly problems, societal problems, unless we attain a higher level of consciousness. Because you can only study the lower by being above it, not by being at the same level with it. We can learn the upper matters called the wisdom of Kabbalah only by way of remedy, since they can bring a person desire and yearning to adhere to the Creator because of the holiness of the matters that speak of the holy names. So the only way to learn the wisdom of Kabbalah is actually for a person to want to change from egoism to altruism. And this is why it's calling it a remedy. The study is a remedy because it shows me the truth about my nature. Right? When we go to a doctor, what do they tell us? If we're sick, God forbid, they say, listen, you're sick and this is your sickness. Okay? So now we can think about the remedy. Okay? And this is exactly the same situation, because society-wise, individually, like society-wise, humanity-wise, call it all of us, we're sick. Right? We're sick. And we need to know what our sickness is. And because we don't know that our sickness is our desire to receive only for ourselves, this egoistic nature, we don't understand that this is our sickness. And because we don't know it, we don't understand it, the world goes from bad to worse. And this is why studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, which is also known as the wisdom of truth, should show me my real state, how sick I am. And then the study can become a remedy, because if I don't know the problem, I can't fix it. If I understand, if I see, if I comprehend the situation, then I can fix it. Then I can do something about it. And even if I can't do something about it, then I want that something is done about it. Even if it's not in my power, I can want to change. And just wanting to change is also enough to bring about a change in a person. That's it. Just like kids want to grow up, right? Kids have a desire to grow up. This is why they're running around all the time, doing stuff. And this desire to grow up allows them to grow up. So the same kind of format is here, because these are in the laws of nature. All right, this was item number 20. Now, I do believe yesterday we finished the Arvut, right? So we'll do the Arvut next Tuesday. So next Tuesday lesson, we'll do the mutual responsibility article. We'll start that and see how we go with that. All right. Hope you guys had a good lesson. And since we don't have any questions, we can call it a night. Okay. And hopefully we'll see you guys next week. All right. Bye-bye and have a good one.